Okay, so a lot of natural light here today. Let's go to the one of the main screens. Topic is, are boomers bankrupting the future? So Gen X, Gen Z, and Millennials, there's a conspiracy being propagated to redefine the boomers' existence. Say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so. But it's so. It's amazing what the little monkey mind can do. When it's out of control, people just are working from a position of fight and flight. Furthermore, lack any real world experience to have created a perspective that gives them a different way of measuring things. But hey, who am I to say, right? What can I say? So here we start with a guy by the name of Mike Moffat, Missing Middle Podcast. Nice gentleman, economist, educated economist. It's always used as a position of as a person of authority for certain television news feeds. But here's what nobody's telling you. He, like many others around the world, and especially the IDU, Independent Union of Democracy organization around the world, which is conservative based all their way of thinking, their ideology on neoclassical economics, which goes back to 1791. And surprisingly enough, that supply and demand theorem, equilibrium theorem, really has not been tested much at all in the mainstream. On the fringe areas of science, yes, it's been tested, and it's been proven it's a false narrative. But it's still being propagated to this day. It's forcing economic policy at a federal level in North America and around the world in a way that does not serve the people. But the people are so caught up in the game and playing the game and wearing a badge of honor. It doesn't matter what's right for everybody. It's that avatar they create. That badge of honor they create is more important. And you've seen that in the United States with Mick Mulvaney and John Bolton. Well, if it's not conservative, we're not voting. Meanwhile, I'll never vote for Trump because of January 6th, Mick Mulvaney states. But yet, who does he vote for? And he admits to it. He still voted for Trump. And this is how you get into the situations you're into. And now, you have a situation where, due to the Bretton Woods Agreement of, 1946 or thereabouts, in or about, has created the economic system led by the United States of America up to this day. Back then, the United States had a trade positive situation. For a long time now, they've switched into a negative trade position, trade deficit. It initially was proposed by a guy by the name of John Maynard Keynes that we have a different system for trade, but the U.S. wouldn't have it that way because they were in a position where they benefited the other way. It's always manipulated in a way that benefits the United States. And this has been an issue for a long, long time. And this is the issue that's created a position where we have a prime minister in Canada that recognizes this, and we need to change the way we do business with the United States, whether it be a Democratic government or a Republican government. Because, to be quite frank with you, the system in the United States is broken. It's been manipulated. It's been manipulated by money and big corporations for a long time. And to have a true democracy, you need to change your system because that does not serve the people. It's like building a house where you just focus on building the roof. You don't bother with the foundation, and you wonder why the roof keeps blowing off. And the other factor you have to understand, and I know this is longer lead-in than I expected, is that economic policy to this day, you tax the poor to keep the system afloat, and the only one that benefits is the 1% and the 10%. And it's really tragic, the fact that it's been there in front of you the whole time. You think tax breaks and balancing budgets are the answer. But if you look at the economic theory and in practicality, how it's applied in real world, it doesn't work. You have a hard time. You don't have a hard time. You can't even think about a modern macroeconomic theorem, which needs modification also, understanding how it can be modified to further strengthen a capitalist society. But you're so busy wearing this conservative Republican badge of honor so that the minority are influencing the majority in a way that is creating the problem and not fixing the problem. And nobody has the wherewithal or the cognitive wherewithal to recognize this and say, let's step back. We need to sit down, open dialogue, and create a new framework that actually serves the people. Build a foundation that's strong, that builds up so that you can have that roof on the house and you know it's not going to blow off. And the other issue is you rely on these balanced budgets that create private debt, that create the crash of 1929, 2008. And you just don't get it. All these factors have been there right in front of you. You do not recognize them, or you poo-poo them, or you try to intellectualize or intelligize to create, who knows, you're just friggin' playing with the monkey mind. You don't understand how things work, how the mind works, the biology of the mind, and the people suffer because of it. And all over a dollar. A dollar's more important than a human being's life. You treat human beings like animals? Like, give me a break. And you're misleading the Gen Z, Millenials, and you're doing it without compunction because the ego is leading your way of thinking, because that badge of honor is more important than learning what maybe the real truth is and how it can be applied to help people. So caught up in the game and playing the game, you're part of the game, and you just don't get it. So let's listen to these guys here.
And I have to admit, as a Gen Xer, I do love seeing baby boomers and millennials battle each other. Sometimes it warms my heart as the forgotten middle child of generations.
The choice is clear. Either we modernize our fiscal system to be fair for all generations, or we continue extracting from the young to subsidize the old until the system breaks.
But here's the deal. Here's what they do not understand. They think balancing budgets and low taxes is going to fix the system. Hey, this girl here ran as a conservative. Richmond Hill, Oak Ridge's Aurora area, because that's where she grew up. The other guy, Mike Moffat, small Ontario town, but he's a professor, associate professor, I think at the University of Western Ontario, or one of them out there, and has a degree as an economist. But it's all based on neoclassical economic theory that goes back to 1791, and now that the system, you got 8 billion people in the world now, you're seeing how the cracks in that system do not serve the people. But instead of modifying the framework of the system, everybody takes a position, tries to intellectualize their position, and just argue back and forth. So you go from a point of judgment, instead of moving into a position of understanding and changing things and ascending judgment for the betterment of the people you're meant to serve. And it's really just as simple as that. But guess what? All the people, you'll see it in the comments, are going to push back and try to state, well, no. It's just the ego pushing back. Or you have some Russian propagandists posting, which there's a lot of Russian propagandists. X, formerly Twitter, under Elon Musk, has set it up so that they can do their game. And they are doing their game. And that's why the United States is so divided, and Canadian citizens are becoming the same way because they rely on X as a standard of understanding for perspective, which is the most dangerous thing possible. Now we're going to look at some of the comments here. And this is very important. You have to be able to understand what people are thinking. The guy states, I was only very angry about the advantage boomers enjoyed. Then I watched this video and learned that seniors can income split their retirement income. I have now become enraged. So let's paraphrase this. This video, even though you've got people that are trying to state they're moving into a flow of they want to help people, are actually purposely creating division. And they know what they're doing, whether it's consciously, subconsciously, or unconsciously. So there's 14 replies, including the people from this video. People from the video, the missing part, it's hard not to get frustrated once you see how many extra advantages are built into the system. This system that this guy is commenting about was basically the same one after the Second World War that people never complained about, never got frustrated about, but things now are different. And why are things different? Because people are so caught up in having to work to live instead of live to work. And you have people that are supposed to be mentors capitalizing on that to create division for their self-interest. And that's more often than not. It's not everybody, but it's more often than not. So here's another guy. Boomers, like every generation, voted less when young than in their middle age. They will dominate, or he says they will dominated politics for 4 decades because of their numbers. And this was exaggerated for the boomers, but for the entirety of the history of democracy, young people were a large majority. Our political systems are designed to check the impulsivity of the young, not the inherently short-term interests of the old. Yikes. Short-term interest, he's been able to measure that in a quantitative and a qualitative manner to be able to state that this is a de facto, could be opinion conflated as fact. You don't know because you're taking your information based. A lot of young people, middle-aged people are taking their information from others and redigesting it and re-ingesting it as fact. And it ain't always so, Joe. It ain't always so. It's a baseball thing, shoeless Joe. People might be beyond the scope of most people. So young people are now a minority by a large margin. And I'm not going to go into more here on that comment. It's also frustrating to learn these details at this point. I'm in my late 30s. I frequently discuss tax policy with boomers, and they've never mentioned these advantages. Hey, when I started working, the population was 17 million in Canada. Now it's 41 million. And the other factor that you need to understand is you're in the second largest country in the world. You say, what? The United States is not the largest country in the world, but it has 341 million people. Canada has 41 million people. So we're always trying to compare ourselves with the States, but demographically, as far as gross domestic product, GDP, a comparative might be the state of Texas. And that's the reality of things. Another guy says, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the former Harper government allow that for all couples? That's income splitting. Because now they say income splitting. Oh, boomers have that advantage? Income splitting? Believe what you will about the current government eliminating that, but I am disappointed to learn they left it in place for seniors. So now, here we have a situation where we create this division, creating our division within our own society by just the way we operate. divide and conquer, but just how the mind works. So now they're caught up in, they can't see the patterns. They become the patterns, so they can't see what's really going on. So they get caught up on this push-pull. So emotionally, they get brought into it, and they can't think pragmatically. It's beyond the comprehension after you've started tugging at the emotional heartstrings. And it's not the real heartstrings, but the emotional triggers. Another guy says, geez, I guess I better watch the video. Maybe it will help me. What, get more enraged? And another one says, why are you enraged? We pat school taxes and no kids in school. We have a set income. Why wouldn't we get a break? Not our fault. We had better economic times. It's not better economic times. The macro and microeconomic factors were different. So this is, I guess, an older person trying to, or it could be a Russian bot, because they play both sides of the fence too. You don't know. It's been going on since 2010, where Russians really wanted to get Trump, Agent Orange, money laundering Trump, and laundering for the drug cartels. And meanwhile, he's blowing up boats in Venezuela now, in contravention of international rules and regulations. But hey, only in America. So another guy says, or responds to that, that's right, times have changed for the worse. You can look at it as the worst, but in times of what you consider, most would consider times of opportunity as well. So you have free will to make a different observation and look at it from a different perspective and make it better. But boomers did not create these economic conditions. He's got a point there. The political and financial elite created this system. Yes and no. Because, yes, definitely the elite, the top 1 in 10%, because they're the rentier class. They wiped out the bourgeoisie class, which is the middle class, in order to keep a position of power, and also through corporations and the influence of corporations influence politics, which is a slippery slope that nobody has realized has happened. And you have to remember the conservatives are, they went in the past election, major corporations supporting Pierre Poilievre because they have benefited more by the conservatives than any other class. And this is where the roof, you're building up the roof, which has no social consciences towards the people, doesn't care what happens to the people, has no moral obligation to the environment. Others think the environment's not a real thing, but it is. Healthcare and your costs and everything are all interrelated on a micro and macro economic level, and you see that example with guys like Doug Ford. Perfect example. Daniel Smith's another example. So Doug Ford is more from the the original conservative, but you still see the flaws. He'll use the notwithstanding clause instead of being like a Bill Davis and actually negotiate with people and understand different perspectives and incorporate those understandings into legislation and law. But that's beyond him. The UCP, which is more the Reform Party, which Pierre Poilievre and the regular conservatives, basically the Reform Party now. The real conservatives fell apart when Peter MacKay sold out to Stephen Harper and the Reform. But still, and I'll say this now, Peter MacKay wears the conservative badge of honor on his shoulder to this day, even though he was sold out, he was harpooned, he knows he was, but he's still a conservative no matter what. Doesn't matter what's right, the conservative way. So another guy says, my generation has already been making countless sacrifices. Enough is enough. For the boomers and their party to get out of the way, I, like many of my peers, have done everything right. What have you done right? You fought a First World War and a Second World War to make sure democracy for all was in place. And here he says, yet the world, or person, yet the world we were told was here isn't. It's been the same. You've chose to shine a prism of light on the topic in a different way and interpret it in a different way to justify your existence. That's all. No difference. Still been the same. So he further states, I graduated near the top of my program from a top university debt-free due to scholarships taken my first year or years at a local smaller college. And working a job, I then moved multiple times away from family and friends, looking for better opportunities. I was on my own at 14, so I know what it's like. Family and friends, yeah. I got a great nuclear setup for me. You might want to try it. Making multiple career shifts. I built up a $1 million a year company plus by the time I was 29. And I had to live on my own at 14. Couldn't go to school, so go figure. So will I ever be able to have a fraction of those from my parents' generation? A normal family, a home, not likely. Well, if you're already throwing in the towel, that not likely is what you're going to create, because that's what you believe and that's what you're going to create. You can say enough is enough. I need to educate myself into what really is going on, what will help me and others to change that of which is. So here we have this missing podcast, giving it a heart. Gentleman here says, I very much doubt it if you're Canadian, whatever your scholarship amount was for. The taxpayer covered double that amount for your education. Before that, the taxpayers paid about $12,500 for each year spent in school up to grade 12. What have you sacrificed? Well, that comment doesn't help the situation either, because you're using the game to continue playing the game. And it's all about money. Money is more important than the human element. It has a value created that human dignity and livability of the human is compromised because of dollars, and nobody can deny that. So I heard another young engineer at an event recently ask, 80% of University of Waterloo engineers want to go work in America. What does Canada bring to the table to keep them here? Well, what you will find is that it's no better in America. If you're really looking at what's going on in America, things are going in the crapper faster than anything else, but you're not even looking at really what's going on down there. So you create a false narrative to yourself, to your mind, because of your influences and what influences your way of thinking, without understanding what really happened. And then another guy says, kind of interesting how COVID was mostly a threat to the elderly. The measures we used to stop it from spreading caused a cost of living crisis. Unintended consequence. Yikes! And this is how we run into this problem, because the real problem and why we have an affordability crisis started back in 1970, and it led to now. Many governments are to share equally the responsibility for where we're at now. But the most important thing that you must understand is neoclassical economic thinking is the problem. The supply and demand theorem is the problem. The equilibrium application of this neoclassical way of thinking is the problem. So till you fix that, you're not going to fix the problem. And that's what I'm saying, folks. So, gotta love the natural light. Really highlights the beauty of the human, right? So, nonetheless, I went in a different direction than I was going to lead this video. I'm just leaving it like this. Let me know your comments, recommendations, etc., etc. Send in love and peace to everyone. Take care. Talk to you all soon. Ciao.